Are you ready for this?
No. Did you want to like it?
I'll have mine after, once we've got... Oh, there's Costa as well. Yeah. We are at BBC Radio Oxford. I hope that's coming through. And let's do this. Enjoying hospitality, Jason. You're enjoying the hospitality. Yeah.
Cheers, that. Right, you're right. Yeah.
Not nervous, are you?
Sprinkling some Harry Potter magic a little bit later on as well. But after being badly bullied, Chelsea Riley channeled her feelings into songwriting. The then 15-year-old from Banbury was in a very low place and struggling with her confidence after being picked on for dressing differently. That was until, on the recommendation of a youth worker, she teamed up with musician and producer David Donnelly, who helped her turn her emotions into music. The result was Chelsea's first song, Crashing Up, which has now been professionally recorded and produced on a 7-inch single. It's very exciting, and here it is.
You're always putting me down, but I'm always moving up. Karma will have its way with you, a payback filling your cup. While you're falling down, I'll be crashing up, smiling in the face of evil. Crashing up, clowns hiding behind people.
That was Chelsea's song Crashing Up, performed by Amy Corradine and David Donnelly. And I'm pleased to say that Chelsea and David join me in the studio right now. Congratulations, this is very exciting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And a great single as well. You must be very proud of actually hearing that, especially played on the radio, Chelsea.
I'm ridiculously proud. It still doesn't feel real this is happening.
Because, of course, you know, when this journey begun, if you like, you were in a really dark place.
At one point, I didn't see the point in living. It was my mum that dragged me through it all. And it got to the stage I had social anxiety. I didn't leave the house for 3 years. It terrified me at the thought of actually moving out of that front door. Friends would try and get me out. They'd make plans. They'd even come to the front door and collect me and then return me home after. And even the thought of that terrified me. They had to do it on the spur of the moment rather than plan it ahead, because they knew if they planned it ahead, I'd make excuses.
That must have been breaking your mother's heart, even hearing about that, you know, just
I dread
awful.
to think how it made her feel, bless her. But when she found out about the hub being over the road from where we lived, she made the idea to take me over there, and she didn't tell me we were actually going over, because she knew if she told me, I wouldn't go.
So that was the best thing that she ever did, in fact, because that got you out of this awful dark hole that you were in because of the bullying. So what sort of form did the bullying take at school?
I got mentally bullied, physically bullied, and verbally. All three.
How did you cope with that? How did you? Obviously, you know, it sent you into retreat. You isolated yourself. But whilst you were being bullied at school, how did you respond to it? How did you cope with it? Who did you tell about it?
I didn't tell many people because a lot of the teachers didn't believe me. So obviously that knocked my confidence. Even they witnessed it and still didn't believe me.
You asked for help and you didn't get it.
Pretty much. The doctors tried to help, but I didn't want to open up to people I didn't know. And then eventually I did tell Mum, but I ended up channeling most of it through music. So typical girl, I'd sing in the bedroom with a hairbrush, and that was one of the main ways that I'd channel it. And my art, I ended up going to college for art, and that was my main way of channeling, because I felt very secluded. I didn't have many friends, so I pretty much hid in my bedroom whenever I could.
What sort of form did the physical bullying take?
I got assaulted several times. Mostly it was like they'd chase me and grab me and slam me into things. The worst one is when they slammed my head into a car, and that pretty much is when Mum realised enough was enough, and she pretty much put her foot down and got me out of it.
And it was just because you looked a little bit different. You were dressing a little bit different from everybody else. Because I see, in
Yeah.
fact, you've got some very nice piercings.
Thank you.
Because you've got two in your cheek, you got one in your cheek, one both your cheeks, and then just below your lips as well. Have you always had those?
I've had my cheeks done since I was 17, and I've had my snake bites since I was 15.
Oh, you see, you've got the technical term. I have no idea. I have no
See, I've
idea.
had my nose done as well several times. I think I had my first ever actual facial piercing at the age of 13 when I was legally allowed to with Mum. She took me. It was pretty much a fight. I really wanted it done, and she didn't want me to get it done. Eventually, I won.
And of course, your hair. Have you always been dyeing your hair? Because we've got a few colours at the moment.
You've got
Chelsea.
unicorn hair at the moment, haven't you?
I was pretty much blonde all the way through school. My natural hair colour's brown, but I absolutely hate my natural hair colour, so I dyed it blonde, lived through blonde through school, went to college, and kind of found the bright colours.
Do you know what we should celebrate? You know, people that you love should celebrate your uniqueness, and you should always be able to express yourself and be who you want to be. And I firmly, fervently believe in that. But what you've done is turned the negative, the pain of bullying into such a positive. But so let's just revert back then to the day that your mother took you to the hub that she discovered was over the road from your house. So what was it like walking in there?
I was terrified. I'm not going to lie. I was holding on to my mum for dear life. I had her hand. I pretty much hid behind her. What no teenager wants to admit to, I did. I literally hid behind my mum, and she did all the talking because I refused to talk. It took them a good hour to get me to even say hello. I was terrified. I was like, I don't want to be here. And yeah,
But you stayed there.
I didn't get a choice.
And then you had to meet me.
See, that was the most entertaining bit. Something about David made me feel safe, so I ended up automatically talking. But with anyone else, I don't know.
David, obviously your meeting Chelsea was one of the best things that's ever happened to you, Chelsea. But of course, you got involved with the hub quite by chance as well.
I did. It was just that as a friend of mine, Janet, works there, or worked there rather, because it's would you believe it's actually closed now? It was one of the victims of the cuts last year. The 44 hubs that are around the area got reduced to 8. And but anyway, let's not go down the political route. But anyway, it was an amazing place. But they had a music room, and Janet was saying to me that whilst they had a sort of guy that did a lot of the electronic stuff and what have you, loops and all that sort of thing, they had this room that had like proper drum kit in it and electronic drum kit plus guitars and stuff. And the thing is, I'm very lucky being a professional musician, and at the time I was touring a lot in Europe and all over the place.
Who are you touring with?
At that point, I was with Glenn Matlock and the Philistines. Glenn Matlock from the Sex Pistols and the Rich Kids and the Faces and his own stuff. And in between these tours, I would come back to Banbury because I've got a lady here. And she's a friend of Janet's as well. And well, actually, she's Janet's niece. And so I'd go and visit, when I'd come off the tour. And eventually, Janet said to me, "What do you do? When you're not playing out and what have you?" And I said, "I just sit around the house and wait for Michelle to come home."
Typical rock star,
yeah,
really.
basically, yeah, because it's tiring touring. You've got to sit down a lot when you come home. And basically, she said, "Would you come and there's quite a few kids would like to learn how to play maybe guitar," because luckily I'm a multi-instrumentalist. I played bass for Bowie's band, the Holy Holy, and I've done drums for Glenn, and I'm a guitarist as well, obviously, because I'm guitar on this track, for instance, and a producer as well. And so that I could do a bit of everything, whoever wanted to learn something. And so that was cool. And then Janet said to me, "Look, there's this girl, she's a bit, I can't remember the word she used, but I always think of it as damaged, because when you first came in, Chelsea, you looked really,
Well, we'll talk about that first moment, actually, when you met.
Yeah.
And what your impressions of Chelsea were from that very first meeting in just a couple of moments' time, because I'm going to play a song right now. We'll hear more about how this relationship has grown and, of course, ended up with a professionally recorded single as well. My guests in the studio, Chelsea Riley and David Donnelly.
Excellent.
Fabulous.
Do you think you could name check the Venus Reaction, the name of the band and stuff?
The Venus Reaction,
yes,
absolutely.
basically. If it's a one-off, we just want to make it really special,
Yeah, of course.
so that people just love it.
Right. I love the energy. It's kind of like it feels fresh, and it feels a bit Republica, a bit kind of. There's a few like I don't know.
Yeah, well, somebody said Debbie Harry fronting the
Yeah.
Manic Street Preachers. I thought that I was happy with that.
Yeah. I like that.
And someone said a bit Foo Fighters-y.
A bit
sort
Foo
of thing.
Fighters-y, bit yeah.
But as a
all that.
producer, I do love a wall of guitars.
Yeah. And people, moving on up, it's BBC Radio Oxford. We'll get all the latest travel news that's coming up very, very shortly. But my guests in the studio this morning are Chelsea Riley. She was really, really badly bullied at school. She channeled her feelings into songwriting on the recommendation of a youth worker. She teamed up, a chance meeting, best meeting ever, between her and producer and musician, multi-instrumentalist David Donnelly. They're both here in the studio. You mentioned actually that first meeting that Chelsea was really broken. So tell me about that point that you met her.
Well, I just remember her sitting with her hood up, like a hoodie up and what have you, just staring at the floor, picking at her fingers, and I just sort of said, because the thing is, the good thing is I'm not a teacher, I'm a rock and roll dude, and so I sort of explained to her, look, don't be scared, I'm not a teacher, I'm not here to judge you and what have you, what do you want to do? And she said, I just want to write, I just want to write. I said, okay, well, that's cool. Have you got any lyrics? And she said, no. So, and we've told this story, it's quite a funny story because the way I did it was I said, right, I'm going to go make a cup of tea for us both. I gave her some Post-it notes and I said, you must have thoughts in your head about all this stuff. I said, I'm going to go and make a tea. While I'm gone, just write down just phrases. It could be one word, could be two words, could be a phrase. Just come back. And when I got back, there was these tables, 3 tables, wasn't there? And they've just covered in coloured.
So it's like an outpouring.
Coloured Post-it notes. And I remember just seeing, the first thing I saw was Crashing Up, and I said, what's that? And she said, well, rather than sort of, burning out, I want to crash up through this. I'm going to break through this barrier,
So that was the turning point, Chelsea, for you.
See, crashing up, the original saying was basically you either climb up
Yeah,
or you
that's
crash
right.
down. So you mix them together and you come up with crashing up. So you're not like going to climb up like most people would or rise up. You're crashing up. You're going up with punch, basically.
And I loved all these phrases like clowns hiding behind people, where people hiding behind who they really are and all that sort of stuff. And the thing is, what she did was she basically, even as a 15-year-old, she wrote a set of what I call universal lyrics, which is something that we can all identify with. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be a 15-year-old girl. You can be. I mean, the guy that put this record up from the record company, the reason he signed it up is because it meant something to him as well. He's bouncing around his room, he said, and really enjoyed it. And I looked at the lyrics and I thought, well, I've had situations like that. I remember being on tour in the Czech Republic, playing for, I think it was 35,000 people. And I remember we had individual dressing rooms, caravans at the back of the stage. And I was being quite mercilessly picked on by 2 members of the band. And so it happens. It doesn't have to be school. It got stopped pretty quickly, but I remember being so unhappy.
It's a really good tool. I mean, putting this single together is a really good tool of getting the message of bullying out there, actually, isn't it? And I know that you want it to help other people because, like you said, it's a universal message. Many people
Absolutely.
have had an experience of being picked on or indeed bullied incessantly,
Yeah.
like you, Chelsea.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
But it's not flag waving. It's kind of just you can enjoy it just as a song. It's it's a great song and it's got a good B-side and
it's got a great set of musicians playing on it as well. What are they called? The Venus
Reaction.
The Venus Reaction.
Yeah, the Venus Reaction. It's basically it was a friend of a friend in America was a psychiatrist, and he said that basically if people go a bit mad through love, like when people sort of they suffer the Venus reaction. That's their little slang term amongst psychiatrists. So I like the idea that this single would be so awesome, you'd love it so much it would drive you nuts. And to actually get it recorded, I wanted to sort of build a band. I thought once I got the song, I thought, let's build a band that doesn't have to play live, don't have to make videos and all that sort of stuff. Let's just do a one-off thing. Who would I have on it? One of my favourite bass players is Glenn Matlock. Who I've played drums with on and off for the last 6 years or so. I love his bass playing style. And another friend of mine is Ed Graham from The Darkness. Everybody remembers The Darkness, and I'm sure. And
I've been able to think of love.
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just love his drumming style. And when we did the demo, I was trying to play like Ed, And I was trying to do it, and I just hadn't quite got the sort of thump that he'd got. And so I said to him one day, I said, "Would you play on this thing that I've got going?" And he said, "Yeah, I'll play on it." So
it's unbelievable
built like
how this all really started. You know, well, your sort of friendship started, you know, with the cup of tea and some post-it notes, and look at it now. How can people get hold of the single, Chelsea?
I believe it's on Burning Shed, isn't it?
Yeah, basically it's www.burningshed.com or www.themerchdesk, as in merchandise, the merch desk, and they're both international distributors. So, we have had orders come in from Australia and Japan and the US. I did a 2-hour US interview on radio the other day.
Wow.
Which is, considering I don't really like talking about myself, that was a nightmare.
Well, look, it's been fantastic to meet you both. I wish you the very best of luck with this, Chelsea. I'm so glad that, I mean, you're sitting there smiling and obviously incredibly proud.
She's an amazing
what's
woman.
Thank you
She's
so
an amazing
much.
woman.
So I wish you all the best, I really do. And carry on being unique, won't you?
I will.
You're great. Thank you very much, David.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Well, let's get the latest on Oxfordshire's roads right now. And Hannah, that broken down bus on the A40.